Well, friends, we in our series of bringing stalwarts to meet you today have Sudhir Fhatak with us, another stalwart in HR and industrial circles. Well, friends, to introduce Sudhir Pathak, apart from being a friend of mine, there is something which I want to let everybody know about him. Sudhir is currently he offers a consultancy in HR as well as IR, and allow me to read it. He facilitates learning sessions for workers and trade union leaders, supervisors, managers, and HR professionals. He mentors a group of HR professionals called OHR. And OHR has, a widespread popularity. People wait for what is OHR doing next. And everybody in the HR and IR circles look forward as to what would be the next program of OHR. Sudhir is a mentor there, of course, holding a BSc degree like me with a first class distinction from the University of Pune. He holds a diploma in labor laws, again with a first class and with a distinction. And he is an MA in HR, which he did way back in 1976. Friends, we are in 2022. And here he got a 60 plus grade. Now he's specialized into training also. He's qualified as a lead assessor, solving human and organization problems, which he did it from AOTS scholarship in Japan. Then he is qualified as an applicator for basic most and leading safety efforts by DuPont. So DuPont, well, we all know of it, but this is what is Sudhir. Now his corporate experience. When I said he has a reservoir of experience, let me just tell you as to how many companies he's handled. He was in Voltas, Morris Electronics, Indian Card Clothing, Garware Wallropes, Sinarmas, DJP Hinode, Tata Motors, and also worked as a consultant with Maratha Chambers and Industries. And he is in conversation since 2013 and ultimately running and being a mentor of OHR since 2013. Reservoir of experience, and moreover there is one thing which is not in his biodata, and he is not even mentioned it, but I know something of Sudhir is an actor par excellence and is a model also. He's done many modeling assignments into advertisement, has shown his stroke in acting, and well, I admire him for all of these things. And really, friends, he is an inspiration to all of us. And especially for budding HR managers, what is his journey? What are his views? How he has traveled? So it's a delight to listen to Sudhir. So I won't stand much between you and Sudhir. And on behalf of you, friends, I'm going to ask him questions. Well, the questions are in the area wherein he holds an expertise. And so let's go on with the interview. Yes.
Namaskar. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you for inviting me for this wonderful session. I really appreciate that.
So, friends, on your behalf, I'm going to ask Sudhir questions which are quite relevant to the present day scenario of HR as well as industrial relations. Sudhir, let me know now. All of us are aware that the COVID period was very daunting as far as industries were concerned. There was a cascading effect it had all over India, abroad, pan India, everywhere. Now you see, COVID is over thanks to the Indian scientists which produce so many vaccines. And then what has happened is the post COVID scenario, people are facing problems, industries are facing problems, HR managers are not really guided as to what is to be done. And then the industrial relations, the dynamics of industrial relations get affected. So, sir, how do you look at the dynamics of industrial relations post COVID? Because there were so many challenges to be faced. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it is such an unprecedented event that we have all faced. We have never ever seen for maybe more than 100 years a pandemic. I think the impact was, quite varied on various types of industries, various types of labor, various types of, processes and so on. I would like to confine myself in the short responses. We have had labor which was migrant labor. We all know how much have they suffered. I think much needs to be done in respect of it. I know there is a law about migrant labor, but how many people comply? I think anyway, as that part of the, I think labor impact on labor has been really disastrous. Looking at it on the other side, that's wherever organized workers were there, unionized workers were there. My experience is much different. I think many unions, many organized workers have made the best that they can make in the process, particularly those whose industry had to carry on under various any circumstances because they were either into food or pharma and things like that. I think industries which were not into the area of anywhere coming close to necessities of living, they also had a difficult time. So there are these three things that I see. In fact, the first one that I saw, I have very closely seen how the unionized workers or and the unions, of course, have really done quite a bit of arm twisting and had much disadvantage of that given situation. Of course, post COVID, now there are many more serious problems that have cropped up. For a simple reason, I think the businesses are impacted. Except a few, I think most of the businesses are impacted, particularly mid-size or not very, big companies. I think everyone's demand is not back to normal, and that is bound to have an impact on the business. Also, there is another impact that I want to talk about, and that is wherever labor was scarce and wherever people were, the processes were much dependent on the labor. I think I see the kind of settlements that are now signed around and the amount of money that is being given, I think is very handsome. I think the employers know that right now they cannot afford any strain and any demoralization on the industrial relations front, and they're going full scale in closing the issues and carrying on with life. I think I said, various things. I hope it makes sense to you.
Rightly said, sir. And this brings us to the next question. Now, you see, we have all heard of Charles Darwin, evolution of species. Everything gets evolved, and so is industrial relations. Industrial relations, which were in 1947, are not today. And then came a transition in 70s. We had militancy of unions. In the post 90s, we had the liberalization era. Today, we are almost into 2022. So, friends, on your behalf, I ask Sudhir again as to what are your views on the evolving industrial relations, because we all understand that change is a sign of progress. Have industrial relations remained the same? Are they stagnated or they have changed? Is there some metamorphosis which has happened as far as industrial relations are concerned?
Well, I think first of all, industrial relations in India, I think, are much influenced by the political powers of the union. One, two, the laws. Because Shrikant, when I began my career in HR, I particularly chose to stay with IR because I always thought it was far more interesting. And I have seen, therefore, at the beginning of my career, that was about 75, 6. The militancy was all over every factory that I worked for till almost 1990. Went through various strikes and lockouts and so on. Thereafter, I think there was some enlightenment. I will give some good bit of credit to the MNCs that set some new new kind of approach to all this. We also learned, I think we learned in the process after the liberalization of 90 as to what is expected from the workers and what is needed, and that it primarily is the responsibility to get the best out of the workers is the responsibility of the management. And then I think much investment has been going on in growth and development of workers and also union leaders. But I think it's still not a very commonplace that union leaders or the unions are treated with the due respect. Many of the employers still feel that they are your adversaries, the union is your adversary, and somehow or the other you have to curb them. I feel this is not going to go on. In the organized industry, what will happen, as I can see, is that the employers are taking greater care. So, one thing I very clearly see is that hereafter there may not be much strikes and lockouts, because I think the new worker, the the managements are all enlightened enough. They all know that the industry is after all a joint enterprise. It cannot be handled either by the management or the workers by themselves. I think that enlightenment has settled down, is what I feel. But my these comments are again largely about the organized industry. In the unorganized industry, I think we were where we are. That is neglecting the workers, neglecting the unions, and not really doing sufficient to get the best out of the workers.
So, Sudhir, my next question to you is, when we talk of HR, we cannot talk of HR today. We have to see as to what is the past. We have to see what is the future. We have to see what are the mechanics involved. We have to see as to how the dynamics are going to change. We have to see how the world is changing. Then there is a Ukraine war. Then something happens in this part of the globe, and everything affects demand and supply all over the commercial world. And once there is a demand and supply shift in the commercial world, naturally it's going to affect at a number of corners. One of them would be industrial relations and HR. So, friends, what are HR functions, Sudhir, yesterday, today, and tomorrow? I mean, that is the question. Yes.
Well, once upon a time, the workers and worker skill was something which was a key to the success of industry, by and large. I think that is on the on the decline. I think the effort is that the skills are taken over by electronics, electromechanics, whatever you say. I think technology is something which will reduce over period of time, particularly workers. I am right now talking only about IR. We'll come to HR a little later. I think it is going to impact the workers and their importance in the company. They have to quickly learn, and we have to help them learn, because the laws and so on will make it more and more difficult for you to replace them. So they will stay there or remove them. So they will stay there. It's better for the managements to redirect themselves from more of a fighting attitude to doing much work in genuine human development. Now, actually, here also I want to make a small point. We have been calling this function itself as a HRD. You know, I personally feel that R, which is today used for resources, is the wrong thing to do. I think it's actually the response that we are looking forward to. We're looking forward to an employee's response to the company's given situation. If quality is an issue for the company, I think the workers and all people in the company must redirect themselves to improve that. And actually, that is what the HR response is required. And I think people must start doing this, helping people alter their response. Today they will do this more, because I think their lives are dependent on industry. They know it, and there can be no better opportunity for them to have a good standard of living other than industry. I think, therefore, I would only just say the last sentence here, that the focus must shift from the so-called, constantly warring and arguing with the unions and the workers. I think we have to really engage ourselves into help them improve themselves in terms of skill, overall competence, and the biggest of all is preparing them. Even their selection has to be much better than what it is today. Coming to HR, where primarily HR is the word that we generally use for the non-bargainable employees. I think the challenges are now again industry-wise different, but yes, manufacturing industry is the today last choice. So I think talent acquisition is going to be an area of great focus maybe in times to come. Motivation, because the concept of loyalties when I began my career were different. Now we have to really work on their engagement. So I think that should be the next shift as far as the workers are, I mean, the so called non workers are concerned.
Yes, Sudhir, you rightly mentioned it. But this takes me to another questions. Now, as far as say India is a burgeoning population, we are almost at 136 crores. Forget the fact that nobody is trying to make an endeavor towards curbing of the population. We are not onto that issue. The issue is we all want good employees, better employees, best employees, excellent employees. We say his performance was fantabulous. But the question is, what about employability skills? We are having earn and learn schemes in India. Some are started by the central government, some by the state government, and we understand that labor itself is a concurrent subject. And then earn and learn concepts, increasing employability skills. So, how do you see the total HR functions from the point of view of employability skills? Is the question I'll pose you on behalf of our viewers. Yes, Sudhir.
True, so you are absolutely correct. I think we have to appreciate that the level of poverty or lack of good standard of living is a very common thing in our country. So if we are expecting people to focus on learning alone, they just can't afford it. Actually, I have been working in the space of employability skills, and I can tell you from first-hand experience that people come here predominantly for earning. In fact, we have to make an effort to teach them. That wonderful scheme like NEEM that we had, where the idea was to bring people who have become spare in the agriculture and help them, become industrial employees or workers, whatever you want to call. What has happened is we have to teach them many, many things. I know some people want to debate its legality, that it's a contract labor. I say you call it by any name. For me, what is happening is all that spare labor, we are introducing them to something which they've never seen in their life. They have been, they will see a factory. I'm sure even without formally teaching, they will learn something. What I personally thought was that it was one of the good schemes, but I understand that for various reasons, it is being, it's not growing anyway. I think it's practically closed. But employability skills is a need, I guess. In fact, if you see the developed countries, all their models have been based on this earn and learn kind of concept. We have now, of course, some limited options are there, like the National Apprenticeship Program, and there are some more. But the point I'm making is, if you wanted to do this conversion on a large scale, I think we have to have, large thinking and be accommodative with what the reality is, and we have to change a huge reality where there are all sorts of problems. Right from the good mindset to be an employee, it's a state of mind by itself. Like we say dharma, I like to call it dharma. Employeeship, it's a being a good employee is a dharma, because we can't have people who don't understand what is expected of an employee and provide him with not only the skill but the proper mindset also. I know you can't change the mindset in a matter of few days or few hours, but at least bring it to his notice as to this is where you are and this is where you need to be if you want to be a good employee. I think the earn and learn kind of a scheme in an employability skill market is something which is a very essential condition for a growing country like ours. I'm sure I know that the manufacturing that quit China, much of it didn't come here. One of the reasons has been that there are no ready people to work and work of the standard that is expected of the investors who are mostly foreign. In India, our tolerance levels are very high. We can, tolerate anything. I think for them, a good bit of discipline, good productivity, and good understanding of what does it take to be a good worker or a good employee is something that can be learned only through such programs.
Well, it's a matter for me to brag about as a patriotic Indian when I heard the Honorable Prime Minister say that our IT exports have increased multifold. And this time the results were not satisfactory, much more than satisfactory. Well, it's something for me to, as I told you, to brag about, to boast about. And with this, you see, India once upon a time had a few IT institutes. And then people went into soft skills, learning soft skill, soft languages. And then the number of institutes, number of colleges teaching computer engineering and allied subjects increased. Now, this increased the man force also. So, my question is, are we at a point of time wherein our IT manpower has already reached its zenith and now we cannot accommodate more people? And that is why when people in the IT sector are removed, they are going to and form unions. Many of them have banded together and formed unions. So my question to you is that how do you see the future of IT? Would there really be unions? What would be the scenario? Would IT remain the same as it is today? Or tomorrow we are to see some different picture? Is what I wanted from you, Sudhir, on behalf of our viewers. Yes, Sudhir.
IT industry came up in our country maybe in last about 20 odd years. I think today it is one of the biggest contributor to our national exchequer. We have been having whatever attempts of overall growth for the nation. I think the IT sector's contribution is phenomenal. In India, so far, as I understand, educated person, well-educated person is actually not looking for any cover like that of union. But after all, if we deal with them like workers in the manufacturing industry, or if we take them for granted, someday this is bound to happen because the law permits it anyway. I think what has happened in the, since you said what is it now, as I see that at least there is one clarity that all this while, first 10-15 years, people were debating, can they form a union? Of course, they can form a union, it's the law, and now you can see it happening around. So once the unions are formed, you will have hardly any choice but to negotiate with them. The problem will be unionization and excessive unionization. We also know has a cost to be paid, and that cost I don't know whether the IT sector will bear, not bear, because they have plenty of options. They are mostly, at least the foreign investments, or even for that matter, Indian investments. When it is convenient, they will walk out. They'll walk out to Vietnam. They'll walk out to wherever they can. Because there are many English speaking countries which has been our biggest advantage. Well, it's not limited only to India. I think many people can achieve this. I feel in future, as I see again here, the focus will have to be today. I think the HR function, my impression, of course, with I mean, excuse me if I am not very accurate in this. Most of the work that happens in IT industry on HR is predominantly simply, keep the employee somehow happy. I don't know whether since I don't belong to IT industry, whatever I understand when I talk to people and so on and so forth, if we continue to give them scope in creativity, keep them engaged in work, give them sufficient challenge, I think it may not be that bad. But once the union steps in, accept it that there will be limitations in organizing your business and delivering to the customer. It is bound to happen. That will be very unfortunate because I think India needs this sector to grow simply because it pays well to the employees as well. I think everyone benefits from this.
Yes, that was absolutely a fantastic answer. And now we come, see, labor codes are knocking on the doors. We have heard things like there's an amalgamation of 55 laws into 4 laws and social security and wage and all of that. Simply speaking, labor codes. Labor, of course, is a concurrent subject. We have a central subject as labor and a state subject also. In some states, rules are framed as far as labor codes are concerned. In state of Maharashtra, there are no rules framed as yet. So, in the light of all of these things, I would like to have some quick comments from you as far as labor codes are concerned. How do you see? Would it change the scenario? Would it change the situation? Is it something new, something innovative, something inventive, or it's the same old wine in a new bottle? Whatever are your views? Yes, Sudhir.
Yeah, actually, one of my very basic comment is this goddamn concurrent list. What is this nonsense? Who's accountable for labor? I personally feel states should be simply left with the land and the people of that whatever geography state is, and they should be allowed to do what they like in terms of laws or whatever it is. It is let every state compete in having laws which are friendly with the employees as well as the employers. What is so difficult about it? The if we don't do that, we will miss out quite a bit. So my first comment was this concurrent list and the the topic of labor sitting in the concurrent list. I'm not in agreement. I think someone has to take the responsibility and deliver it. Two, I feel like you very correctly said, it's a old wine in new bottle. So no further comment on that. I feel some provisions are so confusing. I just can't understand how people are going to operate. That provision about that salary, that 50% will be have to be equated with basic and DA, on which the contributions under PF etc. will go. Point is, salary is a function that has been looked after by each company. No government dictates. You have dictated minimum wages to us. That's good enough, and we respect that. There has to be minimum wage. I have no doubt about it. Knowing Indian, ethos, if it were not there, there will be great difficulty for ordinary workers. I accept that. But why are you getting into something which is really not necessary? Salary, is that the point? Working hours, is that your issue? Are you dictating that people could work for 12 hours? In fact, people are so confused about it. And on top of it, like you correctly said, there is this political issue. Some states in agreement, some states in not agreement. So I don't know. I'm really confused whether it will really anyway come up any time. But in the bargain, what has happened is the states have also stopped taking any initiative about doing some positive changes. Sitting in Maharashtra, I know for sure that at least our laws, comparatively, we've been always ahead of time, and we've brought in legislation which no one had then conceived, like MRTU and so on and so forth. I think so the conclusion is, I will say, leave it to the respective state to make their own state and their people competitive for the investments, because there is no need to have any national standard. Culturally, we are so different. Our ethos is so different. In each state, language, culture, everything is different. So I would simply say, just to, since we don't have too much of time, I would say these are a few observations that I have about the labor code.
Well, friends, I mean, Sudhir's views have been very well accepted all over. They are his personal views, of course, but then it certainly gives food to our mind. And moreover, there is one thing. I mean, it's in the from the bottom of my heart. I really wanted to ask you, Sudhir, again and again, because yours is a long drawn out history in industrial circles. So, reservoir of experience you have. And this takes me to the arena as to I'm going to ask you, because you are the person who can answer this question. What is your message to budding HR managers? There are so many MBA institutes. People pass out from MBA institutes, join industries. She is at the lowermost rung or the echelon of any industry. Then he climbs up the ladder one day, but it takes time. Rome is not built in a day. So, my question to you on behalf of all our viewers is, what is your message to budding HR managers? Yes, Sudhir.
Yeah, sure. I have seen lots of changes. When I was studying HR at the Tata Institute, our class had two girls. Now I understand that more than half are girls, and which I welcome. I also understand there was no engineer in my class. Now I understand there are, a good bit of engineers studying HR. I think HR has evolved, though I also feel that HR is not a function of a book. I think it's a function of live experience, your creativity, your dedication to your work, and so on. So, I mean, just to say what is really, I think, those who dedicate themselves to this, namely, understand your company, its business, it is essential at every level in HR. If we don't understand what the company's business is, what company priorities are, we can never succeed. Because many of us still continue to believe that we have the power of employing, and even the letter of appointment. It says in most of the companies, it says thank you for your application. We're grateful that you joining us. You're so good, and this is your salary. I remember having attempted this in one of my companies. I said, we are in a business of customer satisfaction. We think that you have a potential of joining us. There could be good opportunity for you. If you do one, two, three, four, we will pay you so and so compensation. What I'm trying to say is this also needs to be understood by HR people. Many like to believe that this company exists for employing people. No, thank you. I think we have to understand that this is business. And in business, we have a role, we have a most critical role. Because even when you see that the industry will be soon taken over by the technology, who's doing technology after all? People. So that I accept. But the point I am wanting to make is let this be understood very well. In one company for which I worked, the value was excellence in engineering. It was changed after a lot of consultation within the company. We changed it over to customer satisfaction. So what I'm saying is we have to understand that the business of the company is customer satisfaction. For that, HR has to do any, every, and many things to make sure that people give, like I said in one of the earlier responses, people give the right response. You, of course, have a responsibility for developing them, without doubt. You have to develop their competencies in the space of skill and knowledge and all that, no doubt. But in addition, you also have the responsibility of having your HR designed, thought of. You have to have your own systems to make sure that people respond correctly. So that is the HR role. As far as I'm concerned, HR has big future if you get into this business with the zeal of an activist, committed, with bit of a creativity and good understanding of business, you will find solutions because HR otherwise is simple you and me. I think if you understand, relation between you and someone else and you and some other groups, there's nothing greatly difficult about it. Everyone is welcome. More of engineers, more of girls. In fact, girls will, I think, be able to do even better because I think they have a sensitivity that is not matched by many boys. And of course, engineers will bring in the systemic approach to the whole subject because all this while HR has been, treated as, अरे इनको क्या समझता है इनको कुछ नहीं समझता इनफैक्ट सम कंपनीज आर सेइंग यार उसको मत बुलाओ उसको कुछ समझता नहीं आई थिंक वी हैव टू ग्रो ओवर दैट everyone in the business expects us to deliver something that can be measured. If you have nothing that you can offer through your schemes or through your thinking or through your systems that anyone can measure, think 100 times before bringing up such initiative in the company. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you for inviting me. And okay, after long, I've been giving kind of an interview through with the employment interviews long ago, but you made it very interesting by asking me a variety of questions on various things, which are my dear topics. Though it's been long time since I worked 9 to 5, but all these things are still very dear to me. I'm grateful to Simzuu for giving me this opportunity because this is how I will be able to reach out to all of you. I have been able to reach out to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Simzuu, and thank you, Shrikant.
Well, friends, so this was the interview with Sudhir Phatak, and we all believe in one thing, that knowledge prospers all. And that is why we bring to you different stalwarts from different walks of life, so that it helps increase our momentum, or it's our gallop towards our goals. So whatever they say helps us. And this was the interview, and maybe in the next interview we would have somebody very different who is going to talk to you, and I'm going to ask questions on your behalf. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you.